My brothers and sisters, the Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate, is one of the most mysterious and symbolically rich locations in all of Jerusalem. Situated on the eastern wall of the Old City facing the Mount of Olives, this gate is unlike any other in Jerusalem's structure. Not merely because of its architectural features, but because of its deeply rooted biblical and prophetic importance. The gate stands as a physical and spiritual landmark that intersects ancient prophecy, messianic expectation, divine sovereignty, and end-time revelation. Biblically, the Eastern Gate is first associated with the glory of God. In Ezekiel 10, the prophet sees the glory of the Lord depart from the temple and exit through the Eastern Gate. Later in Ezekiel 4:3-1-5, he receives a vision of that same glory returning from the east, re-entering through the same gate. This detail is crucial. The direction matters. In the Bible, the east is often connected with God's divine presence, judgment, and new beginnings. From Eden being planted in the east of Genesis 2:8 to Jesus' anticipated return from the east of Matthew 24:2-7, there is a recurring theme. God moves through the east. The Eastern Gate is also directly connected to the coming of the Messiah. Jewish tradition holds that the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through the Eastern Gate. Christians take this further by identifying the gate with the triumphal return of Jesus Christ, his second coming. When Jesus returns, according to Zechariah 14:4, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which lies directly across from the Eastern Gate. The topographical alignment of these two sacred sites is no accident. It is a prophetic setup that ties the visible world with God's invisible agenda. The spiritual weight of this gate is not just theoretical. History itself has responded to its presence. In the 16th century, during the rule of Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire sealed the Eastern Gate. No other gate in Jerusalem has been permanently sealed like this. Why? Historical records suggest it was done to prevent the Jewish Messiah from entering the city. As if that wasn't enough, a Muslim cemetery was established right in front of it. This was believed to be a barrier. Since Jewish priests were not to come in contact with the dead, it was thought this would block any priestly or messianic figure. Ironically, this act of sealing the gate meant it did her prophecy, actually fulfilled prophecy. Ezekiel 44:1-2 says, "Then the man brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary, the one facing east, and it was shut. The Lord said to me, this gate is to remain shut. It must not be open. No one may enter through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it." The gate was not to be opened by man. It had a divine appointment with destiny, not just to be closed, but to be reserved. This brings a deeper dimension to the Eastern Gate's spiritual significance. It becomes a symbol of divine exclusivity. Only the Prince, the Messiah, is worthy to enter through it. No one else may pass. It's a threshold guarded by heaven itself. Just as the veil in the temple once separated the Holy of Holies, the sealed gate marks a boundary, not a stone, but a sacred timing and messianic authority. What makes the Eastern Gate so extraordinary is its role as both a prophetic timestamp and a future entry point. The closing of the gate, the cemetery in front of it, and its position facing the Mount of Olives all converge to paint a clear picture of what is to come. It's not just a wall in Jerusalem. It's a message, a silent trumpet, a visual prophecy. Even Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, as recorded in Matthew 21, likely came through this eastern section of the city, riding on a donkey, fulfilling Zechariah 9:99. He came as a king offering peace. But the next time he comes, he will not be riding a donkey. He will return as King of Kings, entering through the gate not with palm branches laid before him, but with nations trembling before him. In Jewish rabbinical texts and traditions, the expectation of a Messiah entering from the east is strong. Some sages have taught that resurrection will begin at the Mount of Olives, which is why many Jewish graves are located on its slope. The connection between the resurrection of the dead and the coming of the Messiah further emphasizes the importance of the Eastern Gate's position and alignment. Archaeological interest in the Eastern Gate has continued for decades. Beneath the current sealed structure lie ancient foundations, possibly dating back to the Second Temple period, and perhaps even in Nehemiah's time. The gate we see today may not be the exact one Jesus walked through, but it stands on the sacred footprint of biblical prophecy. It is also noteworthy that no matter how much construction, war, or conflict has affected Jerusalem, the Eastern Gate has remained sealed for centuries. This untouched condition in a city that has been attacked, rebuilt, and transformed over time adds to its prophetic mystery. Many believe it stands today by divine preservation, awaiting only one event, the return of the Lord. The Eastern Gate is more than a blocked passage in a city wall. It is a living symbol of prophetic expectation. Its silence speaks, its closure declares, its position proclaims a coming king. The gate is sealed not by accident, but by appointment. It holds within its stones the whispers of Ezekiel, the footsteps of Jesus, the hope of the church, and the trembling anticipation of heaven's agenda on earth. The Eastern Gate of Jerusalem, also called the Golden Gate, holds not only spiritual weight but a dramatic historical footprint that continues to fascinate theologians, historians, and prophecy watchers alike. One of the most curious and deliberate historical acts surrounding this gate is its sealing by Islamic rulers in the 16th century, an act that was driven not merely by military strategy or political necessity, but by a spiritual awareness, or even fear, of messianic prophecy. During the early 1500s, the Ottoman Empire, under the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, had control over Jerusalem. Suleiman, a powerful sultan and a major figure in Islamic history, embarked on a massive building and restoration campaign in Jerusalem, including the reconstruction of the city's walls. As part of this campaign, the Eastern Gate, one of the oldest and most prophetically significant gates in the city, was sealed shut with stone blocks. This was no ordinary maintenance or fortification. It was a purposeful and symbolic act that reached deep into the theological tensions of the time. According to historical and Islamic traditions, the Jewish people expected their Messiah to enter Jerusalem through the Eastern Gate. While Islam does not recognize Jesus as the Messiah in the same way Christianity does, Islamic eschatology does have its own teachings about Isa, Jesus returning at the end of time. Additionally, many Islamic rulers were aware of Jewish messianic expectations. As the Jewish population in the land and in the diaspora longed for the arrival of their Redeemer, stories and expectations about his dramatic entrance into the city through the Eastern Gate spread throughout the region. The sealing of the gate was therefore not merely an architectural decision, but a political and religious statement. It was a proactive attempt to block or delay what many believed would be a supernatural event, the arrival of the Anointed One. The Ottomans, attempting to show power and dominion over the city's destiny, closed off the gate entirely and even constructed a Muslim cemetery in front of it. This too was no random move. It was rooted in ritual defilement laws, particularly those believed to apply to Jewish priests or holy men, who were traditionally forbidden from entering cemeteries due to Levitical laws surrounding impurity and the dead. The presence of the cemetery was meant to create a spiritual barrier. The thinking went that if the Jewish Messiah were a priestly figure, which many believed he would be, he would not defile himself by passing through a graveyard. This was seen as a clever and final seal on any attempt to fulfill the ancient prophecies of the prince entering through the Eastern Gate. This historical act reveals how the spiritual realm often influences physical decisions. Even among those who may not fully accept or understand the scriptures, the idea that an Islamic empire, powerful, vast, and deeply rooted in its own theology, would take practical steps to oppose a Jewish messianic prophecy is evidence that prophecy itself casts a long shadow over human history. Even those who don't confess the God of Israel may end up participating in his divine timetable. The Eastern Gate's closure is also deeply symbolic of humanity's repeated attempts to control or restrict the movement of God. Throughout history, rulers have tried to seal tombs, lock doors, and build walls in an attempt to stop what heaven has ordained. From Pharaoh's chariots chasing down the Hebrews at the Red Sea to Roman guards posted at Jesus' tomb, there has always been a struggle between divine prophecy and human resistance. Interestingly, even in modern times, the Eastern Gate remains sealed and untouched, despite numerous wars, political transitions, and religious disputes over Jerusalem. During the British Mandate, the gate was still closed. During Israeli control post-1967, the gate was still closed. Despite the technological ability to restore or renovate the gate, no official action has been taken to alter it, perhaps due to the mystique and prophetic weight it carries. The story of the Eastern Gate sealing also serves as a testament to the lasting influence of biblical prophecy on world history. Unlike myths or legends locked in the pages of forgotten books, the prophecy concerning this gate has manifested in real space and time, shaping political decisions and architectural choices that have endured for nearly 500 years. The Islamic rulers of the 16th century may not have believed in the second coming of Jesus Christ the way Christians do, but their actions acknowledged, perhaps even feared, the potential fulfillment of such a prophecy. In a world where empires rise and fall and kings come and go, their response to this gate demonstrates that even the most powerful of men often act with reverence or resistance to what they cannot fully understand. The Eastern Gate, long sealed and undisturbed, has recently become the focus of renewed interest and growing speculation due to various movements, excavations, and structural observations near its base. For centuries, the gate has stood silently, a sealed sentinel facing the Mount of Olives, holding within its walls the weight of prophetic anticipation. But in recent years, activities around this ancient gate have captured the attention of prophecy scholars, archaeologists, religious leaders, and watchful believers worldwide. The slightest disturbance or discovery in this area stirs curiosity because it touches not only history but unfolding destiny. In recent decades, the Israeli Antiquities Authority and various archaeological teams have conducted surveys, digs, and studies along the eastern wall of the Old City. Though the Eastern Gate itself remains sealed, excavations beneath and around it have unearthed ancient foundations, passageways, and burial structures, some dating back to the Second Temple period and possibly even to the First Temple era. These discoveries are not simply of historical interest. They fuel questions about what lies beneath the surface and whether hidden chambers or unknown entrances could still exist under the current structure. There have also been reports, both formal and informal, of ground shifting and structural changes occurring near the Eastern Gate. Some observers have noted cracks in the stone, unusual soil displacement, and subtle shifts in the ancient masonry. While these could be explained by time erosion or environmental wear, for many who watch Jerusalem through the lens of Scripture, such developments are interpreted through a prophetic lens. The sealed gate, unmoved for nearly 5 centuries, now appears to be subtly responded to time, or perhaps to divine timing. The possibility that movement beneath the gate could signal prophetic alignment has gained traction, particularly among those who see physical signs in Jerusalem as precursors to spiritual fulfillment. It's not simply about crumbling rock or archaeological interest. It's the idea that creation itself bears witness to the unfolding plan of God, and the ancient stones of Jerusalem may be testifying in silence. The sealed eastern gate, by its very existence, already fulfilled part of Ezekiel's prophecy. So any suggestion that it might be physically moving now causes many to wonder if another portion of that prophecy is nearing its fulfillment. The rise of modern technology and surveillance has only added to the fascination. Satellite imaging, drone footage, and ground-penetrating radar have made it possible for researchers and observers around the globe to monitor even the slightest changes in terrain and structure. Some online forums and digital ministries have dedicated themselves entirely to watching the Eastern Gate, uploading zoomed-in images, live feeds, and detailed analysis of recent shifts. These digital watchmen have made it their mission to document anything unusual, and their findings are often shared widely in prophecy circles. In addition to structural movement, excavations along the eastern wall and nearby areas, such as the city of David and Kidron Valley, have revealed deeper connections to the biblical landscape. These digs have uncovered ritual baths, ancient walkways, and burial sites, all of which tie directly to the life, ministry, and final return of the Messiah. Every layer unearthed adds to the narrative that this area is not just historically important, it is prophetically charged. Even the location of the Temple Mount in proximity to the Eastern Gate magnifies its significance, suggesting that future events, whether religious, political, or spiritual, may converge in this specific zone. The presence of the Muslim cemetery directly in front of the gate remains undisturbed, and any excavation in this area is politically and religiously sensitive. However, occasional maintenance and underground survey work in the area have prompted speculation. Some reports claim that parts of the subterranean gate structure, possibly the original entrance from the time of the Second Temple, still lie beneath the visible, sealed gate. This has led some researchers to propose that the Messiah's entry may not necessarily require the unsealing of the current gate. He may instead pass through a divinely preserved path beneath what man has sealed above. Political tensions in Jerusalem have further heightened the prophetic atmosphere. Every announcement regarding archaeological activity, restoration projects, or municipal renovations near the Temple Mount or the Eastern Wall triggers a flood of reaction. Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities all have vested interests in the area, each interpreting the gate's significance differently. For many in the Christian prophetic community, even minor developments are scrutinized as potential indicators of a soon-coming event tied to the return of Christ. In the broader global context, what happens at the Eastern Gate resonates beyond the city walls. Prophecy-centered ministries have published articles, hosted conferences, and produced video documentaries analyzing recent findings near the gate. Tours to Jerusalem now include dedicated moments at the Eastern Wall, where guides explain its history, spiritual importance, and current condition to pilgrims from around the world. The gate has become more than a historical site. It is viewed by many as a watch point on the prophetic calendar. Adding to this global intrigue is the testimony of rabbis, Christian scholars, and even secular archaeologists who acknowledge the unique role the Eastern Gate plays in the religious imagination of millions. Some have openly stated that they believe the gate could be opened in the near future, whether by divine intervention, political will, or geological necessity. Whispers of possible restoration projects, redevelopment plans, or historical commemorations near the gate circulate from time to time, sparking waves of speculation and expectation. The Eastern Gate, though physically sealed for nearly 5 centuries, serves as more than an architectural feature of Jerusalem's ancient wall. In the biblical and prophetic narrative, it stands as a symbol of access, a profound image of entry, not only into a city, but into divine fulfillment, into the presence of God, and ultimately into the culmination of history through the return of Jesus Christ. While its earthly form remains locked in stone, its spiritual message echoes louder with each passing generation. In Scripture, gates often represent transition points. They are thresholds between one realm and another, between the outside and the inside, between separation and fellowship, between wilderness and worship. The Eastern Gate holds a distinct place among these, because it is the gate that faces eastward, the direction from which the glory of God departed, and to which it will one day return. Ezekiel's visions, detailed in chapters 10 and 43, emphasize this directional movement. In Ezekiel 10, the glory of God departs the temple and exits through the east gate. In Ezekiel 43, that same glory returns from the east, entering once again through the very gate that had seen his exit. This prophetic image is rich with spiritual meaning. The Eastern Gate becomes not just a physical location, but a symbol of divine access. A visual prophecy that there is a set time and appointed entry point through which God will reintroduce his glory to the earth. That entry, according to many biblical scholars and prophetic interpreters, is tied to the second coming of Jesus Christ, who is expected to descend upon the Mount of Olives, directly opposite the Eastern Gate, and make his way into Jerusalem through this sealed threshold. Jesus himself, during his earthly ministry, hinted at this prophetic alignment. His triumphal entry into Jerusalem, recorded in the Gospels of Matthew 21, Mark 11, Luke 19, John 12, likely occurred through the eastern entrance of the city. Riding a donkey, he fulfilled Zechariah 9:9 as the humble king. That entry, however, was only a preview. The next time he enters, it will not be in meekness, but in majesty, not to be crucified, but to reign. The gate that welcomed him in humility is the same gate that will one day open for him in power. The sealing of the gate, historically done by Islamic rulers in the 16th century, paradoxically reinforces its symbolic message. Man tried to block what only God can open. The gate remains closed to everyone else, a physical testimony to the exclusivity of divine access. According to Ezekiel 4:22, no one may enter through it, because the Lord has already passed through it and consecrated it. This preservation is not accidental. It reflects God's sovereign hand over his redemptive plan. In this way, the Eastern Gate becomes a symbol of Christ's uniqueness. Access to the Father, access to salvation, access to the kingdom. All of it comes through one appointed person. As Jesus said in John 10:9, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. Though the Eastern Gate of Jerusalem is made of stone, it points to a spiritual truth. Only Christ can grant access to God. Just as no one else may pass through the gate reserved for the prince, no one can come to the Father except through the Son. This symbolism also carries weight in terms of urgency and prophetic timing. The sealed gate represents a countdown. It's not just a gate that has been closed. It's a gate that is waiting. It is a placeholder in prophecy, a reminder that there is a moment coming when what is sealed will be opened, and what has been held back will be revealed. The gate testifies silently but powerfully that the story is not over, that the king is not finished, and that his return is not only promised, it is imminent. As world events accelerate, from wars and natural disasters to moral decay and global instability, the Eastern Gate becomes more than a silent structure in stone. It becomes a watchtower, a prophetic marker that causes believers to look up and prepare. Just as the wise men followed the signs to find the Christ child, so today's discerning followers of Christ look to the signs that point to his return. The Eastern Gate stands among those signs, withered by time, untouched by history's many conquerors, but preserved for a divine moment yet to come. The symbolism of access doesn't stop at a future event. For the believer today, the Eastern Gate becomes a call to personal reflection. What areas of our hearts are sealed? What doors in our lives have we closed to the presence and purpose of God? If the Lord has marked one gate for himself, sealed it until the time of his return, then he surely calls us to examine our own gates and align them with his will. Access isn't just about Jerusalem. It's about yielding our hearts to the one who alone can enter and reign. The sealed gate then holds both comfort and confrontation. It comforts with assurance that prophecy is on schedule, that Christ's return is not forgotten, and that access to the kingdom is secured in him. But it also confronts the complacent, reminding us that while the gate stands still, time is moving and the moment of opening is drawing closer. The Eastern Gate, still sealed and silent after centuries, speaks a message that echoes louder with every passing generation: be ready. While its stones may appear unmoved and the threshold untouched, the prophetic significance it carries pulses with urgency. It is more than a gate, it is a divine countdown, a symbol that points forward to an appointed moment in time, and that moment draws nearer each day. The gate may not have opened yet, but the world around it is shifting. The atmosphere is changing, the signs are aligning, the clock is ticking. Readiness is not just a spiritual suggestion, it is a prophetic command. From Genesis to Revelation, Scripture reveals a God who moves with purpose and precision. He does nothing randomly. Every event, every fulfillment of prophecy, every divine appointment unfolds on his timeline, not man's. And as the world inches closer to the final chapters of history, the call to readiness grows sharper, more focused, and more urgent. Jesus himself emphasized this repeatedly in his teachings. In Matthew 24 and Luke 21, he gave detailed descriptions of what the world would look like in the days leading up to his return. Wars, famines, earthquakes, lawlessness, false prophets, and a surge in global unrest were all warning signs, not just for the curious, but for the committed. He urged his followers to stay awake, to keep watch, to remain alert. He said the Son of Man would return at an hour no one expects, and that those who are not prepared would be caught off guard. The sealed Eastern Gate illustrates this reality vividly. It stands as a visual metaphor for spiritual preparedness. Just as the gate remains closed until the appointed time, so too does the return of Christ remain hidden from human prediction, but not from spiritual perception. Those who are attuned to the times, who are watching with eyes of faith, can sense the shifting wind. The gate is not moving yet, but everything around it is, and that is the wake-up call. One of the tragedies of modern life is spiritual distraction. The world is louder than ever. Technology, media, politics, and entertainment keep people's attention locked on what is temporary, drowning out what is eternal. Many have become numb to the idea of Christ's return, either from overexposure to end-time speculation or from underexposure to biblical truth. The result is a generation that is unaware of the ticking clock, standing at the edge of eternity while scrolling endlessly through distractions. The call to readiness is not fear-based, it is purpose-driven. To be ready means to live with intentionality, to walk in obedience, and to be found faithful with what God has entrusted. Readiness is not just knowing the signs, it is aligning your life with the kingdom those signs point toward. Just as a bride prepares for the arrival of her groom, so must the church, the bride of Christ, make herself ready, not later, not someday. Now the Apostle Paul wrote with this same urgency. In Romans 13:11, he declared, "And do this, understanding the present time. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed." Paul recognized the tension of the already and the not yet. The gate is still closed, but the hour is advancing. This was not a call to panic, but a call to action. A call to live holy in a world that is hostile. A call to stay lit like the wise virgins in Matthew 25 who kept their lamps burning for the bridegroom's return. Jerusalem is once again at the center of global attention. Political unrest, religious tension, and prophetic fulfillment continue to unfold around this ancient city. The movements in and around the Temple Mount, the rise of red heifer preparation, the increase of temple discussion, and the growing interest in biblical archaeology all contribute to a growing sense that history is accelerating toward a divine climax. The Eastern Gate, though sealed, is not isolated from these events. It is central. Every stone stands as a silent herald of what is to come. The call to readiness also has a personal dimension. It's not just about being ready for a global event. It's about being ready to meet the Lord at any moment. Whether he comes through the clouds or calls a believer home, the need for readiness is the same. Time is not promised. Life is fragile. The gate may be closed, but the next breath could bring eternity. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25, Jesus told of a master who went on a journey and entrusted his servants with resources. Upon his return, he rewarded those who had been faithful and judged those who had been negligent. The message is clear: be faithful with what God has given you while you wait. Waiting is not passive, it is active. It is not about speculation, it is about stewardship. The sealed eastern gate of Jerusalem is more than ancient stone. It is a prophetic witness standing silently at the edge of eternity. From Ezekiel's vision of the glory of God departing and returning through that very gate, to its historical sealing by Islamic rulers, every detail speaks of a divine timeline in motion. The gate, close to all, is not forgotten by God. And now, with recent movements, archaeological discoveries, and global attention returning to this sacred site, many believe it may be trembling beneath the weight of prophecy soon to be fulfilled. Jesus is coming back not symbolically, but physically. The same way he ascended from the Mount of Olives, he will return and enter Jerusalem as the conquering king. The sealed gate is not a barrier, it's a divine appointment waiting for its fulfillment. The question is no longer if he's coming, but are we ready? The gate may still be closed, but the clock is ticking. History is aligning with prophecy, and every shift in Jerusalem reminds us time is short. The sealed gate will open for one, and only one, the King of Glory. Let every heart prepare his way.